Real quick before I start today's video, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Keybar for their continued support. They're doing a super cool sale over on their website. If you guys like carbon fiber, titanium, ultra precision stuff, this is an awesome gift. So buy one for yourself, buy one for a friend, family, loved one, and use that discount code down below to save a couple bucks. Keybar.
Name all around the globe. I got that fire that had your town on the road. With the team of Caracas proud all alone. From the floor to the seats, I got them out of control. The show out and party, turn the show to a party spirit. Rise so high for your soul. Let your body on the mark, get set, let's go. Get it started, you gon' tear the roof off it regardless. You turn it up, say? Oh yeah, oh yeah. Turn it up, say? Oh yeah. We ain't going nowhere, nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. You turn it up, say? Oh yeah, oh yeah. Turn it up, say? Oh yeah. We ain't going nowhere, nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. Lights, camera, action. Lights, camera, action.
You guys want to see something cool? Bam. Wait. Bam. Eric Everett from Easy Customs. He painted these up for me so that it matches my short course truck. I think it's kind of cool. It's that Ken Block scheme, his newest one, and then I just replaced his colors with mine. What do you guys think? Let me know in a comment down below. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Ryan Styles Harris, and in today's video, we are going to go through somehow the mild disaster that was my Florida Carpet Champs experience. It's tough when I don't have a performing weekend, spoiler alert. I kind of struggle with how am I going to make a video about it and still give you guys some valuable information, because that's what I try to do. So I'll do my best to share my experiences with you, and then if it helps you, great. If it doesn't, well, I tried. We raced our two classes here, 4-wheel drive 13.5 and 2-wheel drive 17.5, both of them in the expert class. We learned a lot. We're trusting the process. This year's event was truly interesting because the carpet was brand new. This threw even the locals for a big loop because the handling characteristics and the setups that we're working with the older, little bit more less grippy carpet was very different from what's working with the carpet that's brand new. Hats off to Robbie Michael, TJ, Daniel, Dave Ramos, all the guys that put in a lot of work. Dalton Hashberger, I think you did a lot of work too. You guys really gave us a top-notch racing experience over the course of the weekend. Lance McDonald did an absolutely beautiful job giving us a very smooth, efficient, exciting race program. He's honestly one of my favorite race announcers in the game. This year's event was no exception to excitement when it came to the fact that this was honestly like an impromptu Worlds event. It was probably one of the first times that we've seen a lot of the European drivers come over and compete with our US drivers. So seeing somebody like Mikael Orlowski compete with Dakota Fenn was honestly just nonstop excitement all weekend long. Now, as far as what I learned over the course of the weekend with my vehicles, carpet is deceivingly hard. This year's track was fascinating for several reasons. One, the carpet being new, like I had mentioned, meant that we had a tremendous amount of grip. This posed an interesting challenge because we wanted the cars to be fast down the straightaway and the big sweeper that kind of arced all the way around the track. And then in the very tight technical low speed sections, we still wanted the car to be free and fast. One of the most challenging sections on this track, well, really there was two very challenging sections on the track. One was the very middle infield roller section, where a lot of the pro racers were saying that it was a section that you needed to be able to pump the car through it. You needed to stay low and close to the rollers, but then on the gas whenever you could be. It was very technical and very challenging to be fast in that section. The other feature on this track that was very technical and difficult and bit me several times throughout the weekend was this long floating double that was on the right side of the track. What ended up happening on this was that it was very difficult for you to gauge where the car's trajectory was headed as soon as you came down the drop-off to go over the double itself. I saw many of the top tier racers struggle all the way up until main event time with this feature. So I wasn't alone, and it was mildly comforting that I struggled with it all weekend long, and so did everyone else. That said, it really separated the guys that were dialed in with their depth perception and absolute precision with the vehicles compared to those that weren't. It really started to show in the lap times and the overall run times throughout the course of the weekend. Now, let's talk a little bit about my cars. We'll go ahead and go through my two-wheel. I'll run you through my main event, and then we'll do the same for my four-wheel. Taken that my last carpet race was Carpet Champs last year, I really had no idea where to start when it came to setups. So I reached out to our R&D guy here on TLR, Frank Root, and he was very kind and gave me a starting point for both of these vehicles. With the two-wheel, we started with his setup, and then we made a few tweaks throughout the course of the weekend. Before I start, if anybody's curious, yes, I am running Proline tires on my vehicles, not because I'm leaving raw speed, but because Jason Snyder is in the development. He's almost done with his new black style CRC carpet tire, and it just wasn't ready for this event. So with his permission, I ran whatever tire I wanted to, so I opted to run the Proline tire for this weekend. Really looking forward to when he comes out with his carpet tire. It's gonna be sick. Looking at our setup, we are running the Prism 2.0s in the rear with the raised little bumps on the outside. And then in the front, we're running that new Hexon front tire. If I had to go back and do it all over again, I think I would have opted to run the Prism fronts because that's what Ryan Cavallari, who is a Proline factory driver, he really liked running the Prism fronts because it gave him the precise, aggressive steering feel that I think I ultimately should have had for this weekend. However, working with the Hexon fronts, we did try a couple different things up front when it came to the shock eyelet location on the bottom. Running it in the middle position gave a very kind of like dead neutral feel, and I really didn't like it. So perhaps with the Prism fronts, I could have run it there, but with the Hexons providing just a little bit less overall front end grip, I ran that shock in the very inside position to give me that initial steer and a little bit aggressive stealing feel up front. I did have a front wing on this car, but in the practice laps at the end of the night, it fell off and I didn't have another one. So I did run one, but it's not on there now, and that's why. In the rear of the car, I am running the four-wheel drive rear arm conversion. To me, it just gives the car an overall little bit more stable, predictable feel. I feel that the 5.0 arms can do things a little bit too random, and it can be a little bit tricky to predict what the car is going to do. I do believe that the 5.0 arms will give you a little bit more of a sharpness in certain aspects as to how they'll square up and bite, but it just seems to be a little bit difficult to predict when they're going to do that. So I know it may be a little bit cumbersome to do this four-wheel drive rear end mod, but I continue to seem to like that over the two-wheel rear arm. I am running the RC Life rear sway bar system, and it's nice when you run it in conjunction with the four-wheel rear arm because then you can just use the sway bar link mount that comes on the four-wheel rear arm, and you can run it in its natural position versus drilling an extra hole and doing some weird crazy things to make that RC Life sway bar system work. This is a little bit more of a mount it up and go type deal. Only other thing that we played with throughout the course of the weekend was the battery location. I did run it in a little bit more of a rearward or middle position. As the weekend went on, I wanted a little bit more weight on the front of the vehicle, so I ran that battery all the way forward, and it definitely felt better. It was a more balanced feel front to rear, and it gave me the steering input that I was looking for. All in all, there was moments where my car had a top 10 performance, and I was on pace to even be in the top 5 of the expert stock class, but just driver error seemed to plague me every single time I went out on the track. I would have breakages, big wrecks in pretty much every qualifier that I went out on, and I really struggled to get the comfortability that I normally find. So it put us into the B main. We're hoping to bump. I believe we started second in the B main. So we'll go ahead and jump into that main, and then I'll be back in just a second. All right.
Thanks, sir.
Everybody is done. Race number 20. Alright, fellas, for the game band. Races ready, marshals ready, everybody pull on the tone. Let's stand by. Gary Grandma's going to lead them off over here with Ryan Harris, right behind him at number 2, Bottom 10 and number 3 from Marlon 4. Walker 5. Here's Mark Henderson, now guys, wait for Racing Week. Top shit, top of front, bottom left, my right here, number 2, Mark Henderson to the number 3. Far that out to the 4, and let's just go way around. Back to the 3 spot, here goes 1 and 2, up and over to Jay Concept Stone. The far right there in the track, 1, 2, 3, for that freeway. In that number 4 spot, Ross, Teddy Weller down to the number 5. New Weller begins to move up. New Weller crosses the main, now in the middle of the beat. Race number 20 on the track is for 21. You should be in safety, race number 22. 22 to check. see what the gap's going to be when they come back to the line. Last time about 2 seconds. Let's see if Eric can make up any time here. Gap 1.8 seconds, pick up 2 tenths. Ross going to keep it on all 4 wheels here for another minute and 20 seconds. Eric trying to close that gap at the tabletop. There's that DOR, right down to number 3. Trying to close in. All Ross down the front straightaway to go. Gap 1.7 seconds. He's closing the gap. He's running out of time on the race block. Ross going to keep it on all 4 wheels here. Whenever this bumper double to go. Ross a little slow on the step up. Still maintaining that number 2 column off spot. Race gap now 1.7, strong just a little bit, but only by 100. 35 seconds left to go. Ross got to keep it on all 4 wheels here. Down the front straightaway he comes. Ryan Harris pushing hard. 1.6 seconds back. Ross put around the horseshoe, now the roller through the switchback. 2 bumper double. 15 seconds left to go. 1 more lap here for Ryan Harris. He's closing the gap in on him. Kyle Campbell down the front straightaway. 1.3 seconds out of the gap. 1, 2, and 3. All 20 separated. Oh, and Harris is going to grab the top upside down. That's the race clock gets fired. So it's going to be complicated. Rob Straight going to take the 1 and 2 down the front straightaway as they transfer to the air. Race number 20.
So hats off to that marshal that fixed my car when it went off of that double there and he held on to it. My ball cup popped off of my steering link and he was able to put it back on super fast and keep me going. So kudos, thank you so much for getting a good hustle in there and getting me back on the track. But man, I just couldn't get out of my own way this weekend and it was really frustrating. Congrats to Kyle making the bump. We were teasing up on the driver's stand before that race started. So really stoked and pumped that you were able to bump from that B main into the A. It was really cool seeing you to be able to run those AAA mains. So not really much else to say there. Hoping to do better. I have another carpet race coming up here next week. I'm going to the Cleveland Carpet Champs, Scotty's race, and hoping that we can take what we learned with this and just do a little bit better in that one. So, okay, now on to 4-wheel. 4-wheel was a little bit better, sort of. We definitely showed more consistent pace to be in the top 5, but much like my 2-wheel, I just couldn't get out of my own way when it came to doing stupid wrecks just all by myself in every single round of qualifying. Something that I'm not sure why, I just couldn't generate the amount of corner speed that my fellow TLR teammate Brennan Schimmel was able to find with this car. We did an interesting hot lap challenge thing. I already posted that video, and it really showcased how much faster his car was in the mid corner compared to mine. We drove during the race throughout the weekend, and my car definitely had more horsepower than his down the straightaway, but no matter what I did, I just couldn't seem to keep that corner speed that he had. Brennan is a very talented driver, much more talented than myself, but I could see a distinct difference in how fast his car was in certain respects compared to mine. Going through the car, we have the aluminum chassis. I know that a lot of guys came with the carbon chassis and they immediately switched to the aluminum. An interesting thing that the carbon chassis does well is give you a flex characteristic, which can be something that's beneficial on dirt where there's a lot of bumps, etc. But in this scenario, it seemed that that flex characteristic created some very strange just feedback in the chassis, and the car would become unstable. When we went to the aluminum chassis, all of that seemed to just go away immediately. So a lot of us opted to run the aluminum chassis. Something that was interesting that I was kind of just testing this weekend, I wasn't really sure how it was going to work. I am going to put a disclaimer on it. I ran the composite ring gears and the composite internals. I wanted the car to have as much snap and drive in the driveline as possible, and we didn't run into any issues. I inspected them after every single round to see if I was chipping any teeth, but we successfully ran the entire weekend without any failures or breakages. Note, I am running a center diff. I ran that just in case something was going to put too much load on either the front or the rear diff, and it was kind of my safety mechanism, if you will. I think that at this Cleveland race coming up, I'm just going to see if I can get these things to fail. I'm going to put the slipper in the middle and just really tighten that thing up and lock it out. And I'm going to see if these gears are going to hold up. I can't promise that you're going to see the same results that I have, but I'm just letting you know that's what I had, and those were my experiences thus far. Something that I think I'm going to change going into my next race that I ran for this one, I ran the LCD front dog bones, and they just seem to give the car a very comfortable neutral feel on the steering input, but I don't think that I like it. I think that the traditional CBDs give a much more direct, aggressive feel, and that's something that I tend to like. So if you want the car to be very smooth, very easy on corner entry, the LCDs are a great option. However, if you want a little bit more aggressive steel, a little bit more steering input, I would definitely say the CVDs are the way to go. As far as setup changes go on the car, we started pretty much with the setup that I ended on. The only change that I made was I went up and down in shock oils to see what I liked, but I eventually went right back to where I started. I went to a lighter rear shock oil to see if it would help the car calm down, but it just made it a little bit too bouncy and it blew through the stroke too much. So we ended up going right back to what you see on the setup sheet. So we had 50 up front and 42.5 in the rear. Another thing that's huge if you're looking to get your 22X4 to just do well on carpet and not flip and do crazy things, external limiters on your shocks are an absolute must. I remember last year that I didn't have them on there for the bulk of qualifying, and then I finally put them in, I think in my last round of qualifying or in my main, and immediately the car became very predictable and easy to drive. It jumped, landed, cornered, did all the things that you want it to do. So if you're running a 22X4 on carpet and you don't have any external limiters, take a look at that setup sheet and see exactly what is a good place to start. Last thing I played with as far as setup was, I think I started at 10K and 20K in the diffs, and I went up to 20 and 40. This is where I'm curious if this is why my car wasn't cornering so quickly, is if my diffs were a little bit too thick. So I think that what I'm going to do when I go to Cleveland is I'm going to go back to a lighter diff oil, and then I'm going to work my way up and I'm going to see what happens. Really not sure where all this loss of corner speed is coming from, but that's definitely one thing I'm going to try. The second thing I'm going to try is the front hinge pin width. I have it in a narrow position, and I think that I might go to a little bit wider position to give me a little bit more comfortability up front so that I could drive the car in a little bit harder. Not sure if it's going to work, but it is something that I'm going to try at my next carpet race. That's really it as far as the setup changes that I played with over the course of the weekend. Again, the biggest struggle was just myself and my own personal driving ability. Errors plagued me all throughout the weekend. So car was decent, could have been a little bit better, but it definitely wasn't what kept me out of the main event. I did have a 7 and an 8 for 2 of the rounds of qualifying, but it wasn't enough to get me into the A main, so we BQ'd, and that's where we're going to jump into this B main event, and then we'll pick it up on the other side.
Transfer it up into the show. Race is ready, Marshall's ready. Everybody's going to go on the tone here in less than 5. Here we go, we are all fan running right here. It's going to lead the guards over here in the 13.5 all-wheel drive team main, brought to you by Team Associated. Entering that number 2 spot, we're going to go to number 3 as we started. 1, 2, 3 now up and over the same concept stuff over here on the right hand side. Now up, straight away to go. Eric not in front, not coming up here on the center.
Oh my God! God, please call it out of 2 rest, guys. That was very close. Right on that thing.
Harris going to lose several positions here after the bottle down front straightaway. Spencer and Ramos right now running 1 and 2. 1 and 2 coming on in the front straightaway. They got a slim lead right now on back to He's running into number 3 spot. Right Harris right there with him. 3 and 4. Looks like they're closing that gap in on our lead duo. 4, problem there 4. Dave Ramos gathers it back up. Problem also for Max. That's going to put Ryan now back to the number 3. Ryan coming down the front straightaway. Trying to run down Dave Ramos. Ramos to that 2 marker right now running in number 2 final bump spot. Spencer in the X-ray. Ready to step down with the race lead. Looking to race his way into that AAA main. Ryan Harris right top of the line. 6 seconds back now. 2.4 seconds back. Brent Walker works his way to the number 4 spot now. Walker beginning to move forward. Walker in the Yokomo. Thomas in the X-ray running here 5. 4 and 5 coming down the front straight with Charles Bennett. 1, 2, and 3. Order staying the same. Harris still trying to run down Dave Ramos for that bump spot. You're halfway there, Ramos. 230 down, 230 to go. We will also be taking a break before we start our A-main. They're going to get their bump guys to get the cars ready. We'll be taking a 20-minute break before we start our A-main. Race 24 now. We will be taking a break before your race. Race 24, we will be taking a break before your race. We've got to give our pump up time to get their cars ready. Take a 20-minute break. After 23. Break after 23. Dave Ramos out in front. Spencer working at number 2 spot here at 3.1 seconds away from transfer. Chavez working to 4. Right behind here for the number 3 spot. 90 seconds left to go.
Come on, guys.
Ramos and St. Pierre right now running 1 and 2. 1 second separation on the clock. Ramos still holding on to that top spot. They got Dave McCall mixed up with him right there. There's now 1.6 seconds back to transfer. They got St. McCall stuck in between 2 and 3. Chavez all over the backside of Harris here. For that number 3 spot. A little wide for Dave Ramos. He falls down to number 6 here up to race lead. McCall, you're 1 lap back. We'll let him go through. Oh man, battle now for the top. Up in the race marker double. Ramos trying to hold on to it. Harris right there on the back bumper. Chavez right there as well. Here he goes down the front three. Harris still in the field ready to the corner. 15 seconds left to go. Harris with the pass in the corner. Ramos takes it back away from him. Oh man, here's that now. 2, 3, and 4 up there. The 2 marker double. Here goes Chavez. Chavez to the number 3. Ramos trying to hold on to it. The 2 goes out now back to you. This one goes left. Ramos taking the number 3 spot. Chavez is taking the number 3.
Man, just one small error kept me from getting to the show. It was a tough weekend to get past. I don't think that it's ever happened to me before where I didn't make the main in at least one of my classes. So tough pill to swallow, but that's racing sometimes. So we're going to take the things that we learned. Hopefully we can improve at our next event and just do better. It was a great time hanging out with all the TLR boys. Ryan and Cav did great all weekend long. It was super cool seeing Dakota just absolutely walk from everybody in the two-wheel drive class. It was honestly just a true sight to be seen. So, sorry guys, didn't have a bunch of cool podium success stories from this event, but hopefully you can take the things that I learned and apply it to your racing efforts as well. If you have any other tips, tricks, or things that you know that work really well on carpet, and maybe you can give me some advice, drop it in a comment down below. I'd love to see what you guys think. I need to give a huge shout out to everyone over on my Patreon for continually supporting these race efforts. You guys, everyone up on the screen, thank you so much. I really appreciate your continued support. And of course, I have to give a huge personalized shout out to all of my top tier Patreon supporters, starting with Morrison Ward. Welcome to the crew. Jason Sinclair. Also, welcome to the crew. Brandon Helton, as always, thank you very much. Robert Black, you the man. Tim Juskiewicz, thank you for continuing your support. And of course, Brad Persons, thank you so much. Really cool, spoiler alert, their continued support is going to help get this guy back to a track again to experience 10 scale for the first time. I just purchased a bunch of items with your support to build another two-wheel drive carpet vehicle, and he is going to try it out for the first time at Scotty's race, and I'm super excited to see how he's gonna like it. And again, thank you to Keybar for your support. You guys check out that link down below if you're looking for a super cool last minute gift idea for this holiday season. Okay, well, let's hope we can do better at the next one, huh? So that's gonna be it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff, and I'll see you soon. Peace.